Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 10th Hot Topic session. Today, we'll be talking about software development. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes?
I can hear you.
All good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Nadia, and today I will actually be hosting the session. I work for Peabody, but before we start right into the session, I just want to summarize the structure of today. So we've got two fantastic guest speakers, as you could see from the short teaser. We've got Preston from QA, and we've got Amin from Ravensbourne University. So they will be talking for the first half an hour of the session, sharing their presentations, knowledge, and tips on the topic. And then the second half of today will be dedicated to any questions that you may have. So if you think of any questions while the guest speakers are presenting, please put it in the chat. We'll read them in the second half of the session. And if you want to, you can ask them yourself instead of me reading them from the chat. So before we pass it over to the guest, I'm going to introduce my manager, Evelina, who will give us an introduction on the Hot Topic series and the work that we do at Peabody.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the session. It will be packed with lots of useful information around software development. So if this is something that you're interested in and you want to pursue a career, you are in the right place. Before we start with our amazing guest speakers, I'll tell you a little bit more about Peabody. So Peabody is one of the oldest and the largest housing association in London, and soon to be the second largest housing association in the UK. And as part of what we do, we're not just a housing association, because we have our charity arm that is called Peabody Community Foundation. And Nadia and I sit within the economic inclusion team within Peabody Community Foundation. And what our vision is we're trying to help our residents live a healthier, happier, and wealthier life. And obviously, these sessions, we're trying to do exactly that. So just to tell a little bit more about the economic inclusion team and what we do is we have different work streams, and we support our residents as well as people from the local communities to either find free training, to get a better job, or change careers, to get a job that they want to do. We help them also with business support, we help them with childcare, and we do so many different things. So if you are interested in either upskilling, learning something new, accessing a better role, starting your own business, or you want to just kind of like build a step-by-step path to achieving your goals, probably this is the place to be. Of course, if you're not a Peabody resident, our training offer is absolutely free to you as well. And if you want to work with one of our employment advisors, you can still connect with us, but we'll have to refer you to another team, and we can give you a little more information about that. So the hot topic sessions are really cool sessions that we love doing, because they are on key topics as well as emerging careers and growth sectors. So our aim is to provide information and to empower people to learn more about what are the skills and the jobs of the future. So we're thinking about what will be the skills needed in the next 10, 20, or even 30 years, so that you can basically make an informed decision of where you see yourself and how you develop your career through these sessions. So I hope you enjoy today. We also want to extend our thanks to Think Events, who are managing behind the scenes the whole session. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact either Nadia or myself, and we'll be able to answer anything that you want to ask us. So thank you so much and enjoy.
Thank you, Eve. Perfect. So let's pass it over to the first guest speaker of today, Kristen from QA, which is a tech leading training provider in the UK. So I'll pass it over to you, Kristen, if you don't mind sharing your screen.
Sure, thanks, Nadia. I will share my screen and I'll get started on my presentation. Sorry, I've got quite a few tabs open. Just let me know if it's all ready to go and I can start.
Yeah, Let me just see if it's loading. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me just make sure I've shared. Sorry about that.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay. Let's try. There we go. Okay, that should. Yeah, you can see it now?
We can see.
Yeah?
Yes,
okay, cool. Okay, no worries. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Kristen and I work at QA. So today I'll be talking to you about how you can create a career in software development using an apprenticeship. You can go to the next slide. Sorry, someone else is doing the screen share. So I need, I can try again because I think it might be easier if I can share. Okay, never mind. We're back to it. So just to give you a quick intro to who I am, I'm a marketing executive here at QA. I specifically work within the apprenticeships team, and what I'm really passionate and interested in is giving people of all ages the tools and the knowledge and the information they need to get started in a really rewarding career in the tech sector. Now, I myself don't have a tech background, but I'm learning so much more about tech. I do have an English Lit and French degree, and I've done lots of other roles prior to joining QA, and outside of work, I do have an interest in writing and photography. So the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about who QA are as a business. So we are the UK's leading tech and digital skills provider. We help people at all points in their careers of all ages to develop a career in tech. Now, today I will be specifically focusing on our apprenticeships, which we've been offering for just over 10 years now. And in that space of time, we've helped over 30,000 people start their careers or upskill their careers through our digital apprenticeships. Some other facts about QA: we have been included in the top 50 training providers for 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021. We've also been rated as good by Ofsted, who go and assess lots of different training centres and educational settings. So we have a really good rating from Ofsted. 90% of QA apprentices also go into full-time jobs after they completed their apprenticeships. This is either with the company they've completed their apprenticeship with, or with an alternative company they've applied a job for. We also have the UK's first female cybersecurity apprenticeship achiever. She was a QA apprentice called Stephanie. And we also had the UK's first ever cybersecurity achiever with a distinction, who was our apprentice, Ben. And next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, thank you, we are specializing in tech, and there's a good reason for that, because tech is growing at an absolutely rapid pace at the moment. The industry in the UK is booming, and there's an estimated 100,000 new opportunities that emerge every month, and this is only set to grow as our world becomes more and more digitalized. Tech salaries are an average of 53K, and this definitely grows as you move into management and leadership roles. The other thing I did want to mention is that the tech sector is open to absolutely anyone of any background, age, can develop the skills they need to get started in tech, and that's what I'm here to tell you about today. At QA, we offer apprenticeships from level 3, which is equivalent to an A-level, all the way up to level 7, which is a master's degree in some really great tech subjects. So we do offer lots of other tech disciplines such as cybersecurity or digital marketing, but today we're talking about software development in particular. And just to break down what software development is, I thought this quote from tech consultancy firm IBM was absolutely perfect. And so I'll just read it out, and it is on the screen as well. So software development refers to a set of computer science activities dedicated to the process of creating, designing, deploying, and supporting software. Software itself is a set of instructions or programs that tell a computer what to do. So that is what software development is. And on the next slide, we'll dig into what a software developer does within this industry. So software developers are super creative. They think about, design, and build computer programs. They develop the apps that we use on our phones on a daily basis. They develop desktop apps, operating systems, websites, lots of different things that we almost take for granted and use every day. Software developers are the brains behind that. They also must be able to think about what a user will want to do when they're using an app or a website. They will build programs, they test out new software and make improvements. So the role is quite diverse as a software developer. Software developers also do take a bit of a leadership role in projects. So they will supervise the development cycle. They'll work across different functional teams to transform requirements into features. They will manage teams and processes, and they'll also do the testing and the maintenance of the software that they're creating. On to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned at the beginning, an apprenticeship is a great way to get into software development, and it's a route that's open to everyone. So an apprenticeship is a modern hands-on way to train for a career in tech. An apprenticeship is a paid full-time job. You are working with an employer, you are earning a salary, you have access to lots of different employer benefits, but you are also on a structured training program. Now, the training program is what QA delivers. You spend about 80% of your week working with your employer, and the other 20% of the week you will be learning within a classroom or virtual setting. Now, because your employer is supporting you and paying for your training, they will make provisions for you to go to the training and to go to anything that you need to do to develop your skills. So for some people, this may look like having one day out of work to go to their training sessions. It could equate to a few afternoons a week. This is completely up to you and the employer that you're working with. And once you've completed your apprenticeship, you earn an industry recognized qualification that will open doors for you in the tech sector and in software development, which we're speaking about today. So next slide, please. So these are the programs, the apprenticeship programs that we offer at QA, specifically focused on software engineering and software development. So the first is our Junior Developer Level 3 program. This is our very first basic program. So this is where you learn to build and test software applications on both mobile and web. And this is where you'll really develop your understanding of coding and learn how to code. You can then move on to the level 4, which is our software engineer level 4 program. And this builds on the level 3, and you take your coding to the next level, and you'll begin to build more complex applications. You could also do a degree. Our digital and technology solutions degree apprenticeship allows you to specialize in software development. And if you're looking to go that extra mile and maybe go into leadership, the digital and technology specialist master's degree is also something you can do. Doing these programs, even at level 3, can open doors for you in jobs such as junior app developer, junior programmer, junior software developer, web developer, application developer. There's lots of roles out there for you once you complete your apprenticeship. Next slide, please. Okay, so as an apprentice, you are working full-time. So these are just a selection of some of the brands that our apprentices are currently working with at the moment. But you don't have to work with Barclays or Fujitsu, for example. Some people prefer to work with startups, which is also something we offer. You can do that. We also work with medium-sized businesses across the UK. So there's lots of options for you in terms of employment. It just depends who's employing at the current moment in time. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So I'll just break down to you what makes an apprenticeship with QA quite different, as there's quite a few tech training providers out there at the moment. So the first thing is that you'll have access to the Cloud Academy. The Cloud Academy is our virtual portal of courses and content all related to technology. You can do this in your own time. The access to Cloud Academy, if you're not an apprentice, is actually quite expensive. So you do get access to some really great courses and content. And if you get onto the apprenticeship program, I would encourage you to really make use of this free resource that you'll have access to. You don't just have to do software development courses. You can do something in cyber, digital marketing, really develop and extend your skills. Another thing to note is that QA's apprenticeships are digital by design. This means you are learning via a blend of both virtual and face-to-face courses. You also have lots of support from our teams from when you apply to apprenticeship. Our recruitment team is there to support you, but also whilst you're doing the apprenticeship, you have the learner services team and the safeguarding team. And once you completed your apprenticeship, you can join our alumni community, connect with other apprentices, connect with other people in the industry, and build your network. Next slide, please. Great. So apprenticeships are open to absolutely anybody. You do just need to be over 16 years old, have a valid passport or birth certificate and national insurance number. You must have lived in the UK and the European Economic Area for 3 years before the start date of your apprenticeship, and you can't be undertaking any other government-funded program or qualification. In terms of the qualifications you need to get started on an apprenticeship, this does generally depend on the program you're undertaking, but as a minimum, you do need to have GCSE English or Maths at grade 3 or above, and 3 additional GCSEs. And this also includes, sorry, I forget the word. This includes other qualifications. Sorry, I can't remember the words. Equivalence, includes equivalence as well. Sorry, next slide, please. Okay, so what will your journey look like when you apply for an apprenticeship with QA? So it will start by you filling out an application form for one of our roles online. You'll fill in your details and then upload a copy of your CV. If the criteria matches what the employer is looking for, one of our recruitment team will get in touch with you and they'll help you complete the document and ID check. You'll also complete a personal profile, which is essentially a CV, but it doesn't contain any personal details, so it will be sent to the employer completely anonymously. Then you'll be supported with any interviews or assessments you may have, and our recruitment team will keep in touch with you about the progress of your application, and if all goes well, you'll begin your apprenticeship. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to highlight 2 really great stories of some of our former apprentices. So Stephanie, I mentioned at the beginning, she was the UK's first female cybersecurity apprenticeship achiever. She is now doing really well and developing her career in cyber. Roberta started on a level 3 IT apprenticeship and she went on to complete her degree apprenticeship. She started at the Financial Times. She's still working there now and she's been promoted quite a few times and she's working in a really great role at the moment. So these stories really show that you can really create an amazing career in tech through an apprenticeship. Next slide, please. So if you are ready to start straight away on a software engineering apprenticeship, I would encourage you to take a screenshot of the QR code, scan the QR code, and also or click the link, which I can paste in the chat in a second. This will just bring up a short form for you to fill out with some details. And if there are some roles available in your region, one of our recruitment team will get in touch with you. So this is if you're ready to start right now on the software engineering apprenticeship role. Next slide, please. If you are still under 16 or you're still completing an A-level, your A-levels, or you're still at college and you want to finish your qualifications first, that's great. You should do that. But what you can do now, right now to be proactive is to scan the QR code on the screen or fill in the form, or click on the link, sorry, and fill in the form. You'll be on our database that way. And when it comes time for you to apply, you finish your A-levels, GCSEs, etc., someone will be in touch to help you with your application. So that's if you are under 16 or still completing one of your qualifications. Next slide, please. And just some tips if you are still at school or under 16 to just prepare for your apprenticeship. I would suggest to take on some free courses. There are lots of free content available out there from Google Digital Garage, Udemy, Skillshare. Lots of different places offer free courses, but you can also pay for some if you'd like. Work on your CV as well, even if it just means making bullet points of things that you've done, any extracurricular activities, any part-time jobs. Just make a list and you can format it later on. I would also suggest to undertake some work experience. It doesn't have to be tech related. What this is showing your future employer is that you have skills like communication, teamwork, organizational skills, which are just as important in working in tech as the tech skills. But go ahead and build those key skills now to show your future employer that you are ready to go. And I think that's it. Yep, so we'll take questions at the end. And on the next slide, you'll have my email address. So if you do have any specific questions that you don't want to ask in this particular forum, or if you think of something later, then please do feel free to drop me a message. Thank you so much for listening.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kristen. That was amazing. That was so comprehensive. And thank you so much for the tips as well at the end. Great stuff. So just for everyone and for those that may be logged in a little bit later, this presentation will be shared with you guys attending today. So if you haven't managed to take down, Kristen's email, although someone from Thinq Events just put it in the chat, you will receive this presentation and you can contact Kristen or check the links that she's provided. And I also saw that there was a question in the chat from Ade. Don't worry, we'll ask the question afterwards. I saw that. Don't worry. We'll pass it over to the second guest speaker, and then Ade and everyone else can ask any questions to both Kristen and Amin. So Amin, over to you. So Amin is an academic and a lecturer at Ravensbourne University with extensive experience in the technology sector. So over to you, Amin.
Thank you very much. Is my audio coming through?
Yes, it is.
Okay, excellent. Let me just see if I can get the right window open for this.
Yes, it's perfect. We can see it.
If I can click. Is it working? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you, Kristen, for getting us started with an insight into software development. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go a little bit deeper from what Kristen has said, and also mention the concept of software engineering. And that actually involves a little bit more in terms of what software developers get involved with as they progress in their career and become more senior. But the presentation overall will be a basic introduction, and hopefully it will give you the chance to ask a lot of different types of questions around this industry. So my name is Amin and I work at Ravensbourne University. I teach on creative and digital courses. The name of my project is Dagile, and it's funded by the European Union, so that a lot of people working or living in London get lots of courses for free, actually. Thank you to Peabody for inviting me today to speak about software engineering. So what is software engineering made of? In this presentation, I'd like to look at it through the lens of people, product, process, and opportunity. And those are the 4 segments of my presentation. If we go into people, normally people seeking jobs in this area think about the job role. So we've got coders, programmers, developers, engineers, and there are a lot more. But when you're getting started, you don't necessarily know the difference between each of these. Where do they work on the system? Well, they could be working on the front end, which is what people see. They could be working on the back end, which is what people don't get to see. And then they could be doing full stack, which is a term used for web development, where you do work on the front and back end. So when you're working throughout the whole system, you're called a full stack developer in the web. Now, these particular job roles, you don't have to know the difference. Okay, to get started, you don't have to know, but it's important to recognize that the responsibilities can vary. And the main variation that I'd like you to know today is just how senior people can be. So coding is normally the starting point, and a lot of job roles like junior developer are essentially referring to coders. As we move up towards engineer, what happens is you need to be qualified to be a software engineer. As a software developer, you don't always need a qualification, actually. You can be a self-taught developer. But once you get to engineer level, you do need to have certain qualifications. Now, I don't want you to fall into what I call the overly technical rabbit hole, where people get caught up with lots of words that they don't understand. You don't need to do that. And hopefully throughout the rest of the presentation, you'll see that we can actually tackle this all in plain English. So don't go into that rabbit hole. Now, in terms of technical industries, design is actually very relevant and it helps everywhere. So if we were to distinguish between design and development, what we can see is that designers focus a lot on people and to make them happy, but developers try and build products that are maintainable, and they can often debate and argue about what's right for the product based on their priorities. we offer a course called User Interface and User Experience Design completely for free as part of the Dagile project, which you can definitely look into if you have an interest in design, but particularly with technical products. Now, my advice to you in regards to these job roles is to talk to people. Okay, the best icebreaker is to show an interest in the job that a person does if you're trying to learn more about what it is to be a coder or a developer or an engineer. Okay, so make sure you put yourself in opportunities and situations where you can find these people and speak to them. And to learn about the jobs, you know, speak to people in the jobs. It's always a winning formula, and you don't want to miss out on that trick. Now let's move on to product. See, Kristen mentioned about what software is, and I'm going to go a little bit further into it. See, what is it and what is it not? Now, it's the term given to all of the instructions for a computer, but it's written in many different languages, and there are different ways of looking at programs. If they are closer to a language that we speak, then they're called higher level. And if they're closer to a language that we can't speak and it's hard to understand, then it's lower level. And you'll come to see that if you work in the industry. But I want us to look at different types of software. Application software is to be used by people. That's, you know, so all the programs that come on your machine, application software. System software are the things that are there to help devices talk to each other. So you've got operating systems, device drivers, and then finally firmware is really tucked away because it's stored directly onto pieces of a computer, right? It's hidden away. Now, at this point, again, I don't want you to fall into the technical rabbit hole where you're like, oh, well, I don't understand what application and firmware is. It doesn't matter. You'll come to know what those are depending on what your interests are. Now, the thing to do if you find yourself not knowing what to do, it is essentially to get career advice, okay? You can get a career advisor and you can use that advice. And the reason I say this is because choosing where you want to work is not always a technical decision, right? So I've spoken about the job roles, I've spoken about applications and firmware being different, but where you want to work is a lot to do with what makes you happy as well. It's about what you enjoy, about what you want to get good at, and it's about who you want to work with and who you want to work for, what type of business, how big they are, and what the environment is like. When we go down the avenue of engineering, what I'd mentioned to you before is that you have certain responsibilities, okay? And when you're working and you're trying to progress, it's the responsibilities that creep up on you that you have to really prepare for. So engineering is actually an approach, and it's the mindset that you're in when you develop software. And so that's the main difference between a developer and an engineer, is that developers are very adaptable and engineers have a very fixed way of structuring the way they want to take on the work. So is it coding? Is it programming? Is it IT? Well, it's actually whatever you need it to be, because a software engineer's job role is to solve problems. And because problems change, the solutions can change too. And I'd highly recommend that you make yourself aware of something called no code, which is the notion that sometimes when you want to solve a problem, you don't have to write any code. And that's a very important principle in engineering, is that you don't overcomplicate things. So software engineering, to summarize, we've said that it's multifaceted and it breaks up into software development using engineering principles. Okay. So now let's immerse ourselves in the engineering mindset for a moment. See, engineers must consider much more than the product. You might be working in companies of different sizes who operate in different target markets with different customer dynamics and behaviors, which are then influenced by different market conditions and economics, even such as, you know, major events like COVID. And then this leads to different types of business impact. And an engineer is keeping an eye on these things. Even if it's not their day-to-day job, they need to be aware and they need to understand. And then they're also aware of how stakeholders have different opinions on what's happening and how this can really complicate everyone else's job. And sometimes engineers have to resolve those complications. You know, how are the designers reacting to this? How are the developers reacting to this? How are the system architects reacting to this? So you can see that to be an engineer, you don't overplan what your job is. That's not how it works. You understand the mindset and then you're ready for most jobs. So it's not all technical, as you can tell, and you can't plan at all for your career. Sometimes though, if you don't have a plan for your career, you may fail to have a good career. So what I'd say to you is, even though different jobs, feel different, it doesn't change what that job is. And ultimately, you need to understand that you could be simply just in the wrong team, but not the wrong industry. So be aware that a software engineer in one company could have a completely different life to a software engineer in another company. Brilliant. So in terms of differentiating between a product feature and a user benefit, that is my #1 favorite skill for an engineer. And so if you don't know what that means, that is my homework to you today, is make sure you understand how to do this. Research this, maybe ask a question at the end. This really changes the game to whether the company you work for will succeed or fail sometimes. Amazing. So it's a job that you get paid for, right? So what are you getting paid to do? See, it's always better to know what to do in a way that nobody ever has to tell you. And that's why I mentioned the points I'd mentioned earlier about engineers having an understanding of business impact. Because when you're a good engineer, nobody actually has to tell you what to do. You always know because of the way that engineers' job roles are structured. And the sort of professional characteristic there is to have initiative. So we're on to the process part of the presentation. And as I said to you, applying engineering principles is a process. It contains rules and concepts, and I'm just going to kind of dip into it and then dip back out because it can get very nitty-gritty. So I'd like you to build up your vocabulary actively when it comes to the processes involved in software development and software engineering, right? You probably need to start writing words down and remembering what they mean if you really want to make any proper progress. So I'm going to introduce here something called a backlog. If you can see in the diagram on the left, a backlog is what developers often start with, and it has a list of requirements of what need to be done. They're in plain English, anybody can understand, but a developer then turns that into technical work, you see, and that's where the magic happens. So when it enters something called a sprint, somebody's worked out what they actually have to do. And a sprint is a period of time that can be anything from a day to many weeks to get the work done. Now, the key thing here is there's a term used to describe how the team works when they work very fast. And the methodology is called Agile. But Agile is essentially a manifesto of how to deliver quickly, but it doesn't tell the team exactly how to function. And so there's something called a framework called Scrum that then tells the team what their job roles are. So you bring Agile and Scrum together, and all of a sudden you have a team that works very fluidly. And very coherently. And as an engineer, you may be in a position where you have to train people up into working this way, or to oversee how they work. In terms of picking up on these concepts, always remember to turn it into plain English. Don't walk away with some new word that somebody's mentioned and you don't have any idea what it means. Always turn it into plain English. So if we look at something like testing is a form of risk management, right? It's to make sure that whatever you've made works. And what do you do if it breaks, right? So you can always understand anything in terms of plain English. And I'd recommend always translating, whatever you learn into, something that just feels very natural in the way that you naturally speak. Now, I'd mentioned Scrum to you before, but I want to alert you to the fact that Agile doesn't just work with Scrum. You could also work with something called Lean, another set of principles, right? So engineering, as I said to you, is all about applying different principles in the way that you work, and you get good at swapping the way that you work based on what company you're at. So it's not like you only work one way. You need to understand how to adapt to the company you're in. Finally, opportunity. So when it comes to the amazing amounts of opportunity that Kristen referred to, my favorite part of it is culture, is that if people are designing products for other human beings, we need diverse teams who all have the best interests of other human beings at heart. And to do that, you need a diverse team, people from different backgrounds and bringing their ideas and opinions to the table. And I think one of the key things here is you don't have to start a technical career with technical knowledge. It can start with your mindset and the values that you hold dear. Okay, so don't feel like you're at a disadvantage if you consider yourself to be non-technical. The starting point is not to be technical, is to have values that are true to the technical work that needs to be done, which is to serve people with software. So as I'd mentioned, I teach on courses at Ravensbourne, and if you visit dagilelondon.com, you can see a lot of the different courses that are part of the Dagile project that are free for you to study. And so you can see here a screenshot from the website. I am focusing on delivering the creative digital courses, and in there you actually also get the chance to study web design from scratch. And that is a really good gateway into technical knowledge. It doesn't matter what kind of software developer you want to be. If you learn with the web and you do a basic course of about 30 hours, it's a really good starting point, no matter which direction you want to go in, because even though software can end up in different places, all businesses need a website. And for that reason, we've made this course available to you. Final parts of advice, finding a job in a typical fashion is, you look at what the job involves. Do I get to work from home? What am I making? And you look at the company's mission. What kind of problems do they want to solve? That's how people typically try and find a job. My recommendation to you is to relax during this process. And when you're relaxing, what you can do is you can decide you're going to specialize later. Focus right now on what you enjoy. Get advice from a career advisor on what the best steps are for you to get to where you want to be, and upskill while you wait. So don't just wait around. Take courses, take short courses, and get better at what you want to specialize in while you're waiting for that next big opportunity. And my final words to you are, deeply different personalities lead to deeply different teams. And so the best way to be different is to be you. And you can definitely quote me on that. In terms of, professional characteristics, as I said to you, problem solver, strategizer, improviser, you see these on job descriptions, right? But the thing is, they might already be a part of your personality. So don't ever feel like you don't have a head start. Everyone has a head start if they know what they're about and what they want to do. If you can present that as an engineer, that always gives you an edge over, other people that might be applying for the position. So finally, to wrap up on the course benefits for Dagile, they're available 24/7 online, and they're free for anybody who's living or working in London, if you're employed or self-employed. So it's pretty cool. I'd wish I had opportunities like this a decade ago, but no, they're here right now. They're here for you. So thank you very much for hearing me out. And yeah, I'm ready for questions. I'll pass it back to Nadia.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I mean, that was amazing as well. Honestly, both you and Kristen delivered fantastically today, and some questions already came through the chat. So great. So Ade, I think the question was yours, the first one. Do you want to ask it, or do you want me to read it? If you want to ask it yourself, you can simply unmute yourself and ask the question. And I think it was for Kristen.
You can go ahead, Nadia.
Okay, no problem. And thank you for the question. And so Ade asked, can someone aged 50 apply to when Kirsten was speaking, as she's looking to reskill? So
yes, definitely. There's no age barrier. We have lots of people of different ages reskilling, upskilling, starting from scratch in tech. So definitely don't let age stop you at all.
Okay. Perfect. And would it be through, because I know obviously you talked a lot about apprenticeships, would it be through training or?
So I would say an apprenticeship, yeah, that's definitely the route that you can take. We're not currently doing them at the moment, but we did offer boot camps in collaboration with the Department for Education, I think it is. And it was a free 9-week course. And you learn lots of different, I think software development was there. There was a cyber course. We're looking to bring that back within the next couple of months. So keep an eye out for that. But just to bear in mind with that course, it's unpaid for 9 weeks. So you would have to kind of make that sacrifice. But with an apprenticeship, you're getting paid, you're working, you're developing your skills. So I would definitely recommend an apprenticeship for you as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Hope that answers your question, Ade. If you want to, yeah, if you want to develop or ask further, feel free to.
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Kristen. So the other questions in the chat was from, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it Sina? Sina, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hi,
Hello.
it's Sina. Yeah, thank you. I'm really, thank you so much for this event. It's very interesting to me, and I especially enjoyed the last presentation because it spoke to the non-expert, which is great, you know. Yeah, no, I just wanted to know if you had any opportunities that were paid at London living wage.
Yes, all of the apprenticeships are paid at London living wage and above. Some of them are really good salaries. So I will put the link to all our roles in the chat, but also just feel free to use that QR code. And with that, someone will get in touch and recommend roles for you that are in the region. But I'll also just put a link to all the roles that we currently have as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can I also have some email addresses to stay in touch with people, please?
Yes, no worries.
Oh, sure.
In the chat. Thank
Okay.
you.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for the question. Marnelli, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question? Sorry for putting people on the spot.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi, so I'm currently studying an honours degree with Open University, and from what I've heard before, that you can't do apprenticeship in the same degree.
Yeah.
So I've seen that you have an MSc apprenticeship offer. So would that be the case of me actually having to complete my undergraduate degree first and then apply for the MSc? Bearing in mind that it seems like they were kind of expecting you to have some kind of technical skills experience already. It seems like obviously you are moving towards a management or managerial position. So I was just wondering where I could put myself, considering obviously if you're studying, some prefer to study first before having work experience, and some are just lucky to start having the experience and training through work and then study to get a degree. So I'm just kind of in a dilemma wherein I don't know how to enter the IT sector because I haven't got prior work experience. I know a bit about basic programming, but it's a matter of, you know, obviously being able to apply what you've learned at the same time, you know, knowing how to enter the IT sector. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of your specific case, what I would ask you to do is if you can drop me an email and I will connect you with one of my recruitment colleagues, and they'll be able to help you and advise you if you'd like to go into that MSc program. So just drop me an email and we can speak about that sort of offline, because there's a lot of situations are case by case based. So yeah, if you'd like to go into the MSc, it's certainly possible, but just drop me an email, or if you want to put your email on here, I don't know if you want to do that, but it's up to you, and we can have a discussion for sure.
Perfect, thank you. I mean, is there anything you want to add, or that's okay?
For me? Oh, yeah, oh, sorry.
No, sorry, you know, Kristen, maybe you didn't hear. I was just saying, thank you, first of all, Kristen, for the answer. And I just wanted to ask, I mean, if there was anything he wanted to add in response to Marnelli's question, or if that's okay like that, we can go on to the next one.
Nadia, on my side, unfortunately, the audio was cutting out. Could you repeat what you said?
I was just saying, if you wanted to add anything else on top of what Kristen said to Marnelli's question. If not,
sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, when it comes to deciding what type of technical education you require to get started, as you can see from today, you know, Kristen was talking about apprenticeships, which enable people to work while studying. So they're earning, they're not building up debt, rather they're getting paid to work as an entry-level worker. Now, apprenticeships are really good, and I think that going forward for different types of technical industries, they will be the way some of those industries are shaped. The reason being is that in apprenticeships, what can happen sometimes is people who are in those industries can be part of the education process. So let's suppose, I'm an academic at Ravensbourne and, we're teaching an apprenticeship. If I find that there's an element of what I want to teach that would benefit greatly from getting somebody from the industry to come and talk about it, in apprenticeships, that's very encouraged. And that's my favorite part about vocational training, is that if you're learning while you're working, you get to see a nice little collaboration between the world of academia, which we consider to be studying and qualifications, and the industry itself. And in terms of the experience, sometimes on an apprenticeship, you might be studying for a month and then working for a few months, or you might be training 1 day a week. So 4 days you're working and 1 day you're studying. So depending on the kind of lifestyle that you're after, I would highly recommend that people who consider studying whilst working and not building up any student debt, definitely go down that avenue. In terms of the project that I'm working on called Dagile, we know that people who are working at the moment may not be comfortable committing to an entire technical career, even though it comes with training, such as an apprenticeship. You just may feel like, well, what if I start an apprenticeship, but then I drop out because I don't actually want that job? But just remember that with apprenticeships, if you don't want the job, you lose the apprenticeship. You can't have one without the other. So with Dagile courses, you can actually be in any job. So long as you either live or work in London, you can be in any job, and you can actually take any of our courses ranging from, user experience design, web design, cybersecurity, leadership and management. There's lots of different courses you can see on the Dagile website. And the approach we've taken is it doesn't matter where you are in your career, so long as you have a job or are self-employed, you can study a course to help you decide, well, is this the area for me? And then after that, you could potentially commit to an apprenticeship or a job role. And finally, if you already happen to be in a course where as a result, you can't do an apprenticeship and you can't do a Dagile course because obviously you're already in the system, as it were, you're in academia, then what I'd recommend to you is definitely still get a career advisor of some kind. Right, either your institution would provide you one. I think Nadia might also make mention of ways to get career advisors through the network that they have. But then the best step for you, and I think Kristen also alluded this in terms of connecting you with somebody in recruitment, is to talk to somebody who understands the arena, the working arena. Because what I can say to you is, it's always changing at such a fast rate that, people like me and Kristen, we always have to play keep up. Right, every year we have to check, okay, is what I'm saying right now still relevant? Has anything changed? Is anything different? Job roles are changing, job titles are changing. Everything's always changing in tech right now. And, even the culture that enables, some companies to hire designers and other companies saying, oh, no, we don't want to work with designers. They slow the process down. So it's like, it's very different in terms of how many different working cultures there are. So if you're there thinking, well, I'm trying to find a route into tech, but I don't have enough experience. Honestly, sometimes you can come with a world of experience and still be completely irrelevant in certain companies because they either don't need your skill set or they don't need someone like you. So please don't feel like you have any form of disadvantage. Whatever you are capable of right now and whatever path you're on, you can make it work to your advantage. And that's what I would sort of say.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you both. Lorraine, I was told you had your hand raised for a question. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I have two questions, really.
Yes.
The first question is, I find I've always had an interest to go into either doing cybersecurity or software development. But one of the things that has held me back is that I've actually got work experience as a project manager working in education, but now in sort of the construction sort of industry. And apprenticeships, the actual salaries don't actually are not sort of enough to cover my living expenses, because I've worked for like 15 years, so I've got my mortgage and everything. So what other avenues could I use to get into the industry? I have got 2 degrees. already. And I have about 15 years work experience. So I never because of my background, how would I always found it hard to get in and to be sort of earning an average sort of salary that would cover. Do you understand what I mean? It's quite a difficult one, especially.
What industries have you worked in so far in the 15 years?
I've worked mostly in education, doing project management, like regeneration sort of projects. And I've just sort of embarked on doing sort of working in the green sector of construction now. But I've always had an interest in IT. I used to teach IT, but it was more the what do you call it, application software. And I have a teaching background. I'm a qualified teacher, and I've got a business degree. So that was not sort of like my path for the last sort of 15 years. So I kind of wanted to know if I wanted to do something like cybersecurity, would that be something I could do or not because of my limitations?
I'll go first quickly. So in terms of what you said, you know, the great thing as well, I think some of the people in the room may not have realized this about apprenticeships, right? Is that you can start them at any age. So what I'd said earlier in my answer about why I feel apprenticeships will play a big part in training isn't because I think it's a route that people can take after education. It's because you can come into an apprenticeship at any time in your career. Exactly. So you might have 10 or 15 years experience in another industry, and you might decide, you know what, I'm very good at the work that I've done. I think I have a lot of value to add as a person in a team. And you may have, more on top of that, like you might have project management experience, people management experience, risk management, there's lots of other skills that you can bring in. But then the only thing missing is, well, I just feel like I don't belong in that industry, because in that industry, you also have to know this other thing. So, you mentioned cybersecurity. Now, think about it this way. Yeah. In a company, say, who operates in that industry, such as cybersecurity, naturally they will have different team members, right? Yeah. They'll have all your standard ones, from HR to senior management and so on and so forth. So one of the ways that I recommend for people to break into industries is to take their current skill set and apply for a post in a company serving the industry that they want to work in. So if you want to work in cybersecurity and you already know how to manage people, for example, find a role such as a project manager in a cybersecurity company, and say, look, I want to break into this industry. I have all of this value that I want to add, and the reason I'm different is because X, Y, and Z. And then on top of that, what then happens, you'll notice, is this really nice imagine like a flower blooming, right? So this bud opens up, and what you realize is that all technology industries are trying to serve people. Yes. And with cybersecurity, we're trying to keep people safe online, people's data safe across systems. And if you happen to have 10 or 15 years experience in a sector, you could work in a cybersecurity company building a product for the sector that you already know. Example, I have a background also in hospitality and restauranting. So if I were to work in an IT company and say, listen, I know the start to finish of running a restaurant, so I'd be a really good person to work on a team that's developing software for restaurants. That could be my in or my door wedge. But then to evolve your career, you need to ask these questions up front as well. So when you approach it from that angle, you can ask, I actually want to work in cybersecurity as a technology expert. So, I'm currently studying this course on Udemy, or I'm studying this other book, or I'm reading this book. What would you recommend for me to transition into a job role such as that in your organization? And the reason I'm recommending this approach is because you will find an organization that will give you all of the support that you need to break into that role. And realistically, those are the kind of companies you want to work for. On the flip side, you might think, well, maybe I can only qualify first and then apply for that job role. And in that regard, the only real route you can take that I've seen is to find that entry-level post that welcomes people who are not conventionally trained but have a strong interest and passion, and provide training as part of the onboarding. They say, we're looking, we're a fast growing company. We're trying to mix up the team. We know that not everybody who loves cybersecurity already has training in it. So we have some entry level junior job roles where you can actually start working in the team, but you'll get a coach, you'll get a mentor, and you'll get training so that, you can kind of ease in. So those are the kind of two approaches that I'd recommend. I'll pass it on to Kristen if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think that was actually really useful. Thank you. I actually wanted to answer the second question, and I think my answer will potentially answer both. Lorraine, what I would say again, I just want to say this because I do not work in the recruitment team, and I just want to make sure that you're getting the most accurate information as you can. But what a lot of people do is they're working in a role, they speak to their employer to help them get onto the apprenticeship. Now, I don't know how it would work with maintaining the salary and that sort of thing. But that is definitely what some people do. They're working in a specific role, they want to upskill, etc. They speak to the employer about supporting them. Now, you're moving into completely different in the industry, going into cyber, so it is going to be a bit tricky. So that's why I'm recommending for you to, if you can just email me directly, I will speak to one of the account managers or one of the recruitment team members to see how you could specifically navigate that. And I guess the other thing is, if you do want to get into the role, you may have to take, I suppose, a salary drop from what you're used to, go for entry level roles as Amin suggested, or something like an apprenticeship. But being aware of the fact that you will be getting to kind of where you're at again in terms of your salary. We just need to start a bit lower if it is really your passion. But I would say if you just drop me an email, we can speak about that, getting your employer to support you. And I think that technically answers the second question, Nadia, that you've posted. Can someone employed now also sign up for the apprenticeship? So there's two answers. Yes, you can apply for a completely new role with a new company and do your apprenticeship with them. That's fine, but you'd have to then obviously leave your old role, or you speak to your employer about supporting you and paying for your apprenticeship and your training and staying in your current role or kind of upskilling in that role, but your employer is supporting you. So there's I was going
to say, even if you're not in a role that's linked to cybersecurity.
So that's why I'm not technically sure on how that would work if you're going to a different sector. Yeah. That's why if you can drop me an email, I'm going to speak to someone in our recruitment team who can answer your question very specifically. And then I will also I was trying to kill two birds with one stone. I was trying to answer the second question that had popped up, which was, can someone employed now also sign up for the apprenticeship? So the answer is yes, you can apply for a new role and start your apprenticeship. Or if you're in your role already, we speak to your employer, see how they can support you and get support you with your apprenticeship. I really hope that answers your question. I think I was trying to do too much.
No, that's okay. But
I really hope that answered your question.
If say that you had a degree and you didn't have any technical experience, does that mean that you couldn't do the master's apprenticeship?
So your degree is not technical, is it?
No.
Then that's fine. So you just can't have a similar qualification.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, so you could still. I really hope I'm answering your question. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Is that fine? Yeah. Yeah.
Kristen, I'll throw something in. So
sure,
in terms of breaking down, what Kristen was saying, and kind of pairing it with what I'd said. Number one about apprenticeships is you can apply at any age. Number two, apprenticeships welcome people from different industries because they want to see people with other experiences coming to disrupt, different technology industries, because at the end of the day, technology is there to serve the people, and those people actually work in every industry in the world, right? So bringing that unique selling point of the industry that you already know is always handy. And in terms of the salary, issue, first of all, apprenticeships are just like any other job negotiation. At the end of the day, when you apply and a company gives you an opportunity, they are giving you a job offer, right? And when they give you a job offer, of course, as you would expect, salary is a part of that. Sometimes it's a fixed salary because they don't have budget control, but sometimes it's actually up for negotiation depending on who you're speaking to. Now, the negotiation prospect, you know, I'd warn you that the whole purpose of apprenticeships is a give and take. So they make the sacrifice of not hiring an expert, rather hiring somebody at entry level, because it's going to cost them time and money to train you up. Because not only are you going to be trained by QA or any other kind of training provider, but the company itself actually has responsibilities towards your learning, and that costs time and money and people. So that salary that they've picked is about weighing up the cost of how much, you know, they're giving up in order to take on somebody who doesn't already know what they're doing, right? And that's the balance. But if you can show that you're going to be like some really top performing team member, and you can maybe own an entire region of your department or a product, like you might say, look, I want to work in this cybersecurity role, but I also want product management responsibilities because, you know, by training I'm a manager. Sometimes companies will be open to saying, well, actually, you're a very unique find. We still want you in our company, but we just need to kind of work out how you fit in, and you kind of go through a process or a conversation. So, you know, what I'm saying there is, even though it's an apprenticeship and it's a qualification and there's a salary and it feels very regimented, don't forget that when you're applying for it, you are applying for a job, and depending on that kind of professional environment, you may find opportunities to ask questions, ask for more support, ask for growth, ask for prospects. Like, you know, even though I'm starting at this level, can I reach that level in 2 years just because I've got 15 years behind me? You know, you can ask all these questions, and for sure you will find a faster route than what you currently consider to be like the conventional step ladder. There's always a faster route, especially nowadays, because if you are helping that company grow, they're going to need you to do more anyway.
No, that's really, really helpful, because I mean, I've worked 15 years in education, so I know the benefits of apprenticeships, but the only thing that did come across was that it was quite regimented, and now I kind of understand that it can be negotiable for people who may have more skills or more experience or whatever. So that's really good. Kirsten, is it possible for you to put your email in the chat?
Yes,
I don't know it. Thank you very much.
Sure, no worries.
Thanks very much, Amin, and
yeah, really good
and
answer.
Nadia and Kirsten. It was very helpful.
Thank you, Lauren, for your question. And thank you so much, Amin and Kristen, for the answers. I think we've answered pretty much all of the questions that came through the chat. I'm conscious of time. I just want to remind everyone, you will receive an email following today's session with the guest presentations, their email addresses, how to enroll to the courses that both Kristen and Amin talked about. So you will receive all the links and resources that you need following today's session. And Lorraine, also because you mentioned cybersecurity, actually the next hot topic session will be focusing specifically on cybersecurity. So if you are free, yourself and everyone else on this call, please register to attend the next hot topic session, which is on Wednesday, the 2nd of March, again at 4 p.m. So we'll have already 3 guests confirmed. So we'll be really exploring the cybersecurity world.
Would you be sending out a letter about that, an email?
Yes, I will send you an email about that as well, with the link to register and more details about who the guest speakers are and what exactly they will be talking about.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much, everyone. Honestly, thank you. We'll see you hopefully at the next one. And don't worry, because you will receive everything that we talked about today in an email. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day and your evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.